Record. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to my fireside chat and Q&A about all things periods and hormones and health, all the good stuff. I'm really, really glad that you're all here, and I want you to know that I am filled with immense gratitude for you, my community, and that you're showing up and that you're just a part of my life, because without you, I wouldn't be doing this work. And I mentioned in an email earlier this week that, I've spent the last 14 months writing and editing this book, Fix Your Period, which I have here. I finally got my copies yesterday. I actually am going to post a funny video about that because my sister took a video of me running to the door when the UPS guy showed up, because I knew I was waiting. I was tracking it and I knew it was on the truck. And yeah, I was freaking out. So I am really excited to have it because it was actually super delayed because of everything that's going on right now. And yeah, so that has been basically my life for the last year and a bit. And I, was thinking about how to navigate this unprecedented and rapidly evolving situation. And so I decided to actually step back a little bit from all the book launch activities and everything that I was going to share, and take a little bit of a breath and just tune into what would be most helpful for all of you. And this is why I'm hosting this call, because I know how much stress can negatively affect our sex hormones and our menstrual cycles in a good month, much less in a month where we are dealing with a worldwide pandemic. And just like all of you, I'm human, so there have been a lot of ups and downs, and I just feel like togetherness is really so important. And I want you all to have the courage to face this and know that I'm with you and that you have control over how you choose to respond to the situation at hand. And like I was saying before I started recording, I'm currently in Las Vegas, where I've been for almost 3 weeks. My sister lives here. We came to visit her on our way back, actually, to New York. We were supposed to go back to New York nearly 2 weeks ago. We were house sitting for my boyfriend's mom in San Francisco for 6 weeks prior to that. And we actually moved out of our apartment in October. I do not recommend that when you're in the middle of editing a book. It's not smart. And we were just going to travel. I was going to go back to Antigua, where I'm from originally, to do Christmas and the holidays with my family. We're going to stick around there. And then we were going to come back to New York in March so that I could settle my ass down and launch this book. And then the plans totally blew up. So here we are in Vegas, kind of like refugees a little bit. And New York is the epicenter of this virus right now. And there's a lot of fear and anxiety and uncertainty there right now. And I know that so many of us have been feeling that way. For me personally, I was feeling like, oh, I can't go home right now. I do feel like a refugee a little bit. My book is coming out amidst all of this chaos. Just talking to my publisher and my agent about all of this, they're all like, wow, we don't know what to do. And, it's like, it requires a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of effort to put a book launch together. And that all started to feel like I've done this for nothing. And I was just waking up with these overwhelming feelings of panic and dread every day over the last couple of weeks, wondering, what terrible news that this day was going to bring, as I think a lot of us we were feeling that way. And, it was just sort of, I think like a week and a half ago, it was kind of just a whole week of wallowing in my own sad story. And then I really had to pull myself together. And that was, the moment where I came to terms with the fact that, first of all, we have zero control over these external circumstances in our lives. We can't control what anyone is going to do, whether our government does anything, what our city is going to do, what will happen with the economy, what will happen with the food in the grocery stores. And it really was, it was a bit of a reckoning for me. And, and then when I really got calm and centered, I just decided it was time to surrender to all of this, to everything that's happening right now. And I hope that some of you have been able to do that as well. And, I think that with surrender, a lot of perspective and positivity come from that. And really, when I tuned in, I realized that things were actually okay. Things were fine for me in this moment. And I was actually really grateful for where I'm at right now. The fact that I, don't have to pay rent, although I did sublet an apartment and I did have to pay some of it, unfortunately, but that's fine. And, many other things. I mean, I'm with my sister, who I haven't spent a lot of time with in a while. There were a lot of other issues that I was stressing about that really aren't, big issues for me right now. And one of the biggest things was that I really just wanted to help and serve in any way that I could. That was one of my big realizations. So I just want to check and see if there's anyone saying yes. Okay. Didn't know if there was any questions or anything like that. Just make sure that everyone's here and they're good. And, so I think that, this ability to stay calm right now is so important. And I actually did a great Instagram live with my friend, Dr. Keith Bell. He is a doctor of Chinese medicine, a fertility specialist. He's actually an expert on trauma and burnout syndrome. And we talked for about 30 minutes today on this topic, and he's so brilliant. He also has a webinar next week that he's doing just, free of charge again, like an in-depth teaching on how we can move out of this place of learned helplessness and cultivate strength during this crisis and all the uncertainty. And this idea, that we are all experiencing this collective trauma and we need to get it out of our body or it's going to be stored is really, really fascinating to me. And I think that it's something that we all should be exploring. I actually will share. So you can go to my Instagram and check out, oh, shoot, 1 second. Oh gosh, what have I done there? Hold on a second, kids. There we go. Here, I am just going to, first of all, go to my Instagram. And then also, if you want to check out, sign up for that webinar, it's healthyseminars.com/calm. And I highly recommend it. He has amazing resources on this. And I think that it would be super helpful for all of us because he talks about how we move this stored trauma out of our bodies, especially right now when we're all just in this together. And one of the other things that I felt has been really helpful to me, and I also really want to hear what's been helpful for all of you in sort of navigating all of this, is that I needed to figure out how to help others. And like I said, that was part of the reason why I decided to do this. And I probably will do more of these Q&A calls because I do really want to connect with all of you and hear what's going on in your world and hear what you're struggling with right now. And, or even what you've been struggling with before all of this. And, we know that helping others makes us happier. It makes us feel more satisfaction and a sense of purpose. And that's why I was saying, like, I wanted to do these Instagram lives all week and I wanted to do this Q&A, and I will definitely do another Q&A like this, maybe even a few more, like I said. And, they're also, those Instagram lives are also on Facebook. They're also on YouTube as well. We're just uploading them over the next couple of days. So if you are not on Instagram, that's okay. You'll find them on my Facebook page as well as my YouTube page. And, when I was brainstorming how I could show up for all of you and like things I could do differently, I actually made a run to the supermarket. So this was about a week ago, maybe a little bit more. And this woman actually approached me outside of the grocery store and asked me if I could buy her something to eat. And I'm currently in a very nice suburb in Vegas. And so this was a little unexpected. And usually things like that happen to me in New York where I was living before. And like I said, I was surprised. And of course I said yes. And I bought her groceries, and she was just so happy and so grateful that, all I could think of was, wow, I wish I could have helped her more, but I was so happy that I was able to help her out. And it just took me out of my own head and my own sort of swirl of emotions about my own life. And, other things that we've been doing as well, my sister and I signed up to donate blood since all the blood drives all over the United States have basically been canceled and there have been huge blood shortages. So if anyone wants to give blood, I highly recommend just going to redcross.org and looking for the blood drives that they've organized to get people giving blood because they are in such a crisis situation. And then we saw on the news that this local dog shelter was trying desperately to get dogs into foster homes because they weren't sure what was going to happen with the quarantine in Las Vegas, if there was going to be one or not. So we were like, okay, we made an appointment and we're going to donate blood and we're going to go to the shelter next week and foster a dog. Meanwhile, I'm staying in my sister's house and I've like totally talked her into all of this. But the point is that, this is just a way to bring you back into that place, that presence of giving to others and, supporting people in this time where people really need a lot. And, I think also too, we can't obviously go and see each other. So I've planned Zoom get-togethers with friends and family, especially older family members who live alone. I mean, I think that these are all really great things that we can do to take positive action and just cultivate resilience during this time. So I don't know, what's everyone else up to? How are you all handling this? I see Heidi, you said, yes, I went through a similar process, grieving the plans I lost and now excited about different work at home and helping with the effort to make fabric masks. That's so awesome. I saw that on the news last night. This woman in Massachusetts is making masks and she's gotten all of her friends involved as well doing this. And I was so impressed. My mom is an amazing seamstress. She went to fashion design school. She tried to teach us how to sew when we were younger. Didn't work out. And I'm so sad about that because I really wish that we did know how to sew, because otherwise we would be doing something like that. So anyways, everyone else, let me know. What are you guys up to? How are you dealing with this? Is there any asks that you have around, how better to handle things? And thinking about what Keith was talking about with trauma being stored in our bodies. I just thought I think it was so, he was talking about exercise and moving your body and guided meditations and, audibly letting things out, like screaming into a pillow, singing, comedy, ice cream. I mean, hey, whatever works. So he was just saying, if you don't get that out of your body, it's going to stay there. And so I think that we have to make a concerted effort, if we have the opportunity to do that, to get that stuff moving on out. And so exercise is helping a ton. Yes, I completely agree. I know. Like I said, I'm outdoors, so I'm able to, or I'm in a place that has a lot of outdoor activities. So I'm able to really, get outside, which has been so nice, although it's been a little cold here. But other than that, yeah. Let's see, what else? I'm trying not to comfort feed. I know. Yeah, comfort feeding for real. I definitely have had some chocolate ice cream. There's no doubt about that. And it has been pretty great. But I recognize as well that there have to be other ways that we cope with this kind of stuff. So let's see. Hannah, you said, I'm a uni student. I'm technically still in school, so learning to adapt to having to work at home. I know it's a big challenge if you don't do that, which I've been doing for a long time. So I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm great. No big deal. But I get it, that it's definitely challenging. And you said you had a bit of an ordeal last week because we were only given 48 hours to move out of residence. I had to fly home. So it was super chaotic, but this whole thing has really given me the time to reflect on places where I want to grow. I learned I'm super attached to certainty and routine. So I've been investing some online workshops to help me work through that. Amazing. Truly, that is what we need to do. This is a humongous growth opportunity for all of us. It is taking us massively out of our comfort zones. And I think that truly we need to use this as an opportunity to start to grow and shift in ways that we probably would not have had, or at least it wouldn't have been so abrupt if this had not happened. So I think that's a really worthwhile endeavor on your part. Let's see, Mikey, you said I was flat out in a dark room for the last 2 days with hormonal migraine, which made me really hard to enjoy the sunshine in my family. Oh my gosh, you poor thing. Okay, we should definitely talk about that. Definitely talk about that. Okay, so let's see. Yep, this is where Remedios, I guess that's your name. Yes, I hope I pronounced that okay. Yes, this is where you chat. So whatever you want to share in here, then you can do that on this chat box. All right, so I have a ton of questions from people. Let me just pull these up real quick because I got a ton of them. Like I got so many emails from everyone, and I figured what I would do is, let's see. Oh, Lauren, you guys have some more information here that you want to share with me. Okay, I'll share that first and then we'll jump in. So you said, Kayla, I'm actually okay. I needed the pause tremendously. My dad had a spinal injury 1.5 years ago, and I've been over his care, which has been very stressful, which I believe is part of the reason why I've developed endo symptoms. Yes. So I'm grateful for the pause and being home alone so that I can focus on myself. The only issue I'm having is scheduling doctor's appointments. Yeah. I mean, I imagine that, I know that in the US at least, telemedicine has really blown up, and doctors are doing their best to see their patients on the phone or via Skype or a video like Zoom or something like that. So hopefully that is something that has become available to you. I know that they had to drastically change the laws pretty quickly, or relax the laws, so that doctors were able to see patients outside of their or on via telemedicine and not in their offices. Okay, let's see what else. The constant cravings for sugar are driving me nuts, but I'm trying to make good choices, but withdrawal is real. Withdrawal really is real. And I think give yourself some grace right now. Like if you have sugar cravings, it's likely because it could be multiple things, but it could just be that that's your coping mechanism. It could be something going on with your gut health. It could be that maybe you need to be outside more, walking more. Maybe you're thirsty. I mean, there's so many reasons, but more than anything, it's an emotional coping mechanism for most of us. And right now, I just get it. Everyone's been saying that to me. I crave sugar. I'm craving salt. I have no energy. I just want to sit on the couch and watch TV and eat Doritos. It's like, I get it. And it's okay. It's really okay for us to feel that way. And if you're having those cravings, like definitely try and find alternatives. I think that that's the biggest thing. My sister makes this whole concoction of oats and chocolate yogurt and like these dark chocolate, semi-sweet chocolate chips in there. And I mean, again, there's sugar in there, but it's nowhere near what it would be like if she was eating a bag of, chocolate chip cookies or something like that. So there are definitely alternatives. And in fact, I just did an Instagram live with my friend Samantha. She is a holistic nutritionist. She's in Toronto, and I'll have that video up as well I'm going to try for IGTV, but also on Facebook and on YouTube. And she has a great book. Hold on, I'll tell you what it is. Oh, I don't have it here. Let me see where it is. It's like the 30-day hormone balancing meal, something or other. I'll find it before we jump off. And she has great recipes in there for substitutes on all things sugar. So hopefully that will be helpful too. Let's see here. What else have we got? All right. So you said my name correctly. A lot of people cannot pronounce my name. Oh, well, I'm really happy to hear that I did that. All right. So let's see. You said I found that sitting a bunch more than usual had my lower abs hanging. Yeah, no kidding. And you said you're so happy for this break in focus. I typically don't allow it for myself. Seriously, it is. I think I'm so curious. Does everyone kind of feel this way, or are a lot of you feeling this way? Like you needed a break? You needed a little bit of focus or time to focus on yourself? Yeah, I know. I'm telling you, women, we do this. This is what we do. Everyone else takes precedence over us, and it's not cool. I know. Everyone's happy for the rest and quiet. I know. Thinking you said you're exercising more. Yes. Yeah, I hear you with the fibroid for sure. Okay. Any other endo warriors here? I'm super aware of how this extra stress anxiety is going to show up later, maybe a week, maybe a month. I was just getting over a long chronic yeast infection. Hooray for changing symptoms as we age. And symptoms are now coming back. I'm grateful to have just opened my medical cannabis card. Gummies and the salve are really helping me sleep during the days I need help. That's great. I love that you were able to find things that are working for you. Okay. So I feel like we should jump into questions. We've got about 40 minutes. I can probably go over a little bit, and then I have to go, unfortunately, I have to go to the grocery store. So yeah, like I said, I got a ton of questions. So I want to go through those. And then of course, if you guys have questions, which I'm sure you do, then I can start answering those. I'll see how fast I get through the questions that were sent. And of course, you guys will take precedence. I want to make sure I get everything answered here too. So let's see here. Questions. Okay. All right. I'm going to just go into, oh gosh, where's it gone now? I'll go into these questions and then I will come back to what you guys are asking about, because I feel like that's where I can spend most of my time. So someone wrote in and she said to me, she wants to know how to keep her period. She did not have a period for a long time and has gotten it back. And she said that she is trying to make sure that it comes every month. She had 4 consecutive periods, but now she has been waiting for period number 5 and it's still not here, and it's been 56 days. And so she says she stopped taking acetyl L-carnitine, which I use to help get my period back. So for anyone who has had a missing period, or in other words, amenorrhea, which is the term for a missing period, a period that has been missing for 3 months or more, if prior to that you had a regular period, or if you didn't have a regular period, it's missing for 6 months or more. This is known as amenorrhea. And this young lady says that she had 4 consecutive periods, but she has not gotten the 5th one. And what I would say to that is, what is going on with the stress in your life? Because I think what we don't realize sometimes, well, many times, is that whatever is happening in our lives right now, like something as, something big like this, or it could be something smaller, could potentially be impacting whether you get your period or not. And I think what we don't see, we think that it isn't affecting us. And what I mean by that is, when you're experiencing external stress, whatever that is, and it could be the stress that you're really experiencing, or it could be the perception of the stress, right? Because if we perceive something as being very stressful, I might perceive something as stressful and my sister might not. And so that's something that we have to take into consideration too. What is that doing to our bodies? And I think that there is definitely a predisposition in some women to lose a period when they're stressed. I've never lost a period to stress before. It's been delayed, but it's never just not come. Like, I've never not ovulated and not lost a period. However, I've had other problems, so I'm not exactly counting my blessings or anything. And so I really do see that a lot. That's the pattern I've seen. And so I think that if that is your pattern, you have to be extremely careful, because you will likely are just predisposed to missing periods if something is going on in your life that is not working for your body. Because our bodies, they want to feel just a few things. They want to feel safe. And I know it's difficult to feel safe right now, especially. They want to feel well fed, and they want to feel like, well fed, as in like we need enough calories and nutrients. And they want to feel like we are, like it's taken care of, right? Like we've got, it's well hydrated. It's in, your body is just well taken care of, I suppose you could say, for lack of a better term. So well fed and then safe. And when I say safe, I'm talking about the stress or the stressors. And so when it doesn't feel that way, there's a signal that your brain sends to your adrenals, and then your adrenals send back to your brain. And your brain is saying, okay, well, it's probably not a good idea for us to ovulate this month. And as a result, you might not get a period. So you might not get a period, but for someone else, they may not ovulate and they just may bleed for the entire month. So again, it just depends, right? We're all unique and it shows up differently for different people, but the cause is the same. So what I would say is the acetyl L-carnitine likely had something to do with this. And the reason for that is, for anyone who does not know, acetyl L-carnitine is a substance that basically helps move fat into your cells so that your cells can utilize those fats, those fatty acids. I have a lot of genetic issues with my acetyl L-carnitine genes, essentially. And so I don't absorb fat very well. And that can be exacerbated by gut health related issues. So gut dysbiosis, leaky gut, any of those conditions that fall under that umbrella, whether that's SIBO or, chronic yeast or whatever, leaky gut, like I said, those all can exacerbate this problem. So this lady stopping acetyl L-carnitine likely caused the issue, because the acetyl L-carnitine is helping to move those fatty acids into your cells. And as a result, you're able to use those fats to make hormones and get a period. So that's probably what's happening here. Because remember, to ovulate, it requires a lot of energy. It's a very energy intensive endeavor. And if we don't have the right nutrients circulating in our bodies to support this really big thing that's happening on a monthly basis, then we might not ovulate. So just, I don't know who sent this question in, because I don't have your name here, unfortunately, but just think about that. So the acetyl L-carnitine is probably helping, but I would look deeper. If you have a chance, get my book, fixyourperiod.com. It's on pre-sale right now. And there's my Fix Your Period course, or 14-day cleanse courses in there as a bonus. You get a workbook. There's other handouts as well. So maybe think about getting the book and just walking through the steps in there to help you get a more consistent period. Okay, let's see. There are a lot of other questions. Oh my gosh, there's so many questions here. Let me maybe get to you guys' questions, because I feel like you're all here on the call. So let's do that. Hang on a sec. And let me see all of them, because it's hard to see. Okay. Let's see. So Lauren, you said you want to thank me for all your emails. Thank you. Because of you, I went and got some scans and turned out I have 2 fibroids and some other things I can now get addressed. Thank you. Oh my gosh, you're so welcome. Truly, ladies and whoever else is on the call, this is like my life's work. I am here to help as much as I possibly can. I mean, literally, writing a book was the hardest thing I think I've ever done. And I did it because I really want to help as many people as possible. I feel like we have been totally gypped by our medical system. We do not get the answers that we need. We're chronically gaslighted. It really sucks. And I think that there just needs to be a humongous shift in the way that women's health is dealt with. And we need to change our approach completely and start looking at the root causes of these problems and not just be slapping band-aids like birth control pills and other semi solutions on women. And we need to start to, and for us on our part, we need to be demanding answers. So thank you for saying that. I'm really happy to hear that you're getting answers and you're getting help. Okay, next question. My 14-year-old has excruciating cramps monthly and I'm not sure what to use for relief. Currently using ibuprofen, not comfortable with this, trying to incorporate magnesium and more vitamin D into diet. Doctors are no help. Okay. So what I have found repeatedly with teenagers who are experiencing this, the first thing is, first of all, everything that's going to help you as an adult is going to help your teenager if they're experiencing anything like what you're describing, the pain, heavy periods, all of it. So just keep in mind that teenagers' periods are a little bit different in the sense that they're still in puberty. Their endocrine system is still trying to figure out how to do this whole thing, right? How to do this monthly period thing, how to do the ovulation thing. So it's still a little bit in its infancy and it's going to take some time to regulate. However, excruciating pain with your period every single month is not normal. And it doesn't matter how old you are, even as a teenager. So what I would say is that what tends to be a little bit more normal are heavier periods or more irregular periods because ovulation is still a little bit shaky at that time. But period pain like that is not acceptable. So I would say that you might want to look into whether your daughter might have endometriosis or not. And endometriosis is one of these conditions that is rather hard to diagnose and it is quite difficult to get help. That's why I feel as though taking the nutritional approach and the lifestyle approach is hugely beneficial. I laid that whole plan out in my book. It's a whole 6-week program for this exact issue, whether it's endometriosis or any other hormonal imbalance. The bottom line is that we have to tackle these things that I'm talking about. We have to look at our diets. We have to look at our blood sugar and whether it's soaring and crashing every single day. We have to look at our thyroid health. We have to look at our stress. We have to look at our gut and our liver detoxification. So I've laid this all out step by step. And it's just the work that I've been doing forever and ever with clients. And so I highly recommend you can look at the book. I also think that you should check out Nancy's Nook. It's on Facebook. It's a Facebook group that gives you all kinds of resources on how to figure out finding an endometriosis specialist, maybe figuring out whether you need to do exploratory surgery. But honestly, if you can start with just the lifestyle changes, like I think that the vitamin D is great. I think the magnesium is great, but supplements aren't going to help if your daughter is super inflamed and she's not eating well. And maybe if she's under a lot of stress, I don't know what her current situation is. And so I probably need to know more information. So just keep that in mind, that it really does, it's a bit of a concerted effort. And I know it's challenging with teenagers, but I think when they have the understanding about why this is happening, as is the case for all of us, we feel more inclined to make changes. So hopefully that's helpful. Let's see, Michelle, you said getting my period every other week now, got done with my last one last week. It lasted 9 days and 4 days later, another one. Perpetual PMS, depression, huge appetite. It doesn't end because then it starts over again. I take a natural progesterone, Troche, and pregnenolone. I'm 40, you have endometriosis. Okay. Michelle, I think that, this again, comes back to what I was just talking about. And I'm going to venture to say that I feel as though that gut health problems are at the root of so much of what we're experiencing, because I'm floored by the volume of period related issues, hormonal issues that all of us are experiencing collectively. I mean, it is shocking. It's actually astounding what we're all dealing with on just a regular day. And what you're describing to me, I don't know if you've had any kind of testing done. I'm not sure, but if I were to be working with you, for instance, I would walk you through the protocol that's in my book, that's in my programs. I would walk you through dietary changes. We would start testing your blood sugar to figure out what's going on with your blood sugar. Because everyone, just so you understand, when your blood sugar is imbalanced, and you don't even have to eat sugar in order to have imbalanced blood sugar, it can be caused by multiple things. It can be caused by eating too much bread, eating too many carbohydrates. If you're a carb sensitive person like I am, your blood sugar might be all over the place and you don't even realize it and you think you're eating healthy. If you have a food sensitivity, it can cause your blood sugar to rise inappropriately. And when your blood sugar rises, your insulin rises. And insulin does a whole number on your sex hormones. It impacts your testosterone. It raises testosterone. So that's one issue. It causes your ovaries to make more testosterone, but it can also cause an increase in estrogen as well. So in many cases, we end up testosterone dominant with very irregular periods. We're not ovulating properly, and estrogen dominant and with very little progesterone. So that's why it's one of the first things I have people do to address whatever they're experiencing, no matter the hormonal imbalance, no matter the symptoms. Because if insulin is dysregulated, you can guarantee that your sex hormones are going to be as well. So that's why, Michelle, I would say that everything you're describing right now to me indicates that something's going on with your diet, something's up with your blood sugar, and something is likely up with your gut and your liver. Like I was saying before, with your gut, keep in mind that we have an epidemic, right, of gut related issues, whether that's microbial problems or leaky gut issues or both. That will all contribute to general inflammation in the body. And as a result, it will impact our endocrine system function. And so this is way more complicated to go into right now than I probably need to, because there's a lot of questions. I see 11 new questions here from people. So I can't, but like I was saying, and I'm not here to push my book or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, I want people to have solutions, and that's why I wrote this thing. So I recommend that, or I recommend, if you want to do my Fix Your Period program, I walk people through that too. But there are solutions here. It's just a matter of taking the right next steps. And I think that we can tend to go down a bit of a rabbit hole and not know what to do. And I think in many cases, we just need to get back to basics. Okay, let's see. Lauren, I had missing periods for decades and going on progesterone has made it regular to the day. I take compounded. Okay, great. That's really good to know. I think it's always important for us to figure out why we need progesterone. And it's not to say that that you shouldn't be on it, but I think that we have to figure out before we go on any kind of bioidentical hormones, like why we need those in the first place. Why is our body not making progesterone properly or in the right amounts, or any of the hormones that we might be on? Okay, let's see. Zingy, I'm really wanting to get rid of the fibroid I have naturally. 8 years ago, it was 2.5 centimeters. And at my pelvic exam last week, I learned it was 4.5 centimeters. Just some tips and what do you think of the pace of its growth? I'm 39. And at my exam, I was told I have lots of eggs and healthy follicles. Happiest news this year. That's good to know. So I'm wondering why the fibroid. Well, I would say, I don't know for sure because I don't know your health history, but I would say that when it comes to fibroids, endometriosis, adenomyosis, any of these estrogen-fueled conditions, what I have found is that something's going on in your environment. Either you're exposed to xenoestrogens that are causing you to, that's elevating your body's estrogen levels, artificially elevating them. So that could be part of it. Like I was saying, your liver plays a role in this too. Remember, we have phase 1, phase 2, and then phase 3 of detoxification of hormones. Phase 1 and phase 2 happen in the liver. Phase 3 happens in the gut. So phase 1 and phase 2, if we don't have the right nutrients to support liver detoxification, both of those phases, then we run into problems. And so you might be one of those people who is not detoxing estrogen effectively. So it's either not detoxing properly through your liver, Or when it gets to your gut, it's being reconjugated and it basically reactivated, and it goes back through your gut lining and it's sent back out into your bloodstream. And so the only way to really test and see whether your liver is doing what it's supposed to or not is to do a Dutch test or a dried urine hormone test. And that will tell you what's going on with your estrogen as a whole. So estradiol, estrone, and estriol, the three estrogens, or the three main ones. And then it will tell you what's happening with the metabolites. So how your estrogen is broken down in phase 1 and phase 2 of your liver detoxification. So that to me is usually what's going on with women who have these kinds of conditions, is that somewhere along the line, your estrogen is not being broken down and removed from your body, whether it's in your liver, it's your gut, or you're exposed to environmental xenoestrogens, or like fake estrogens that mimic estrogen in your body or have a more profound or pronounced effect on your estrogen receptors. So that's what I would say with the fibroid. And I've outlined all of that. Like I have a whole gut cleanse as in like an elimination diet and liver detoxification protocol as well in the book that would be really helpful. Okay, let's see here. We've got Giselle. My question is about hormone balance and perimenopause. I'm 47. Historically, I have been estrogen dominant. As I get fairly stressed fairly regularly, my doctor prescribed natural progesterone cream and micronized progesterone. That helps, but lately I've been feeling quite puffy and ridiculously hungry all the time. In one of your posts, I think you said estrogen helps with appetite control. If my estrogen has gone low, does that mean I should cut back the progesterone supplementation, or is there something else I can do to boost estrogen in a good way? Apart from those two symptoms, I'm feeling pretty good, but I do tend to get really heavy periods and migraine PMT. So it will be interesting to see if that happens this month. Can't wait to be able to get your book in New Zealand. Oh, thank you. Okay. So Giselle, I can't make recommendations around any kind of bioidentical hormones. I would love to say that I could, but I just can't, because I'm not a doctor and I'm not your doctor. And it's definitely out of my scope of practice as a health coach. But I will say that at 47, I mean, this is a lot of these symptoms that you're experiencing, while I wouldn't say they're necessarily normal, but I will say that they are pretty common, because you're now on the opposite end of the teenage side of things, where your endocrine system is just trying to figure out taking its first steps. Your endocrine system, on the flip side, on the other end of this spectrum, is basically trying to, wrap things up, or at least your ovaries are trying to close up shop. And as a result, they're going to sputter a little bit, right? Things have changed. So I would say, that it sounds like you're doing okay. I would say with like let's see, you said progesterone, puffy, ridiculous, hungry all the time. I mean, the thing is with natural progesterone is, keep in mind too, that progesterone can be stored in your fat cells. And so if progesterone is stored in your fat cells, you could become progesterone dominant. And what you're describing, like the puffiness, the hunger, those are signs of progesterone dominance. Interestingly, progesterone deficiency and progesterone dominance look a lot alike. So you may want to get your progesterone tested. I hope you're working with someone who is really well versed in hormone replacement therapy, because it's a science. And I think that it's super important to be working with someone who knows exactly what to be doing with this and how to experiment with your unique body when it comes to the hormone replacement therapy. So hopefully that's helpful. Let's see. Heidi, you emailed a question about late ovulation. Okay, I will get to that. Let's see. Remedios, you said, what should I eat during my premenstrual period? Also during my period. Oh yes, I saw that question too. Okay. What should you eat? I mean, like, here's the deal. I wrote a whole chapter about this in the book, because I do think there's something to be said for eating different things at different times in your cycle. However, I don't know that it is necessary for us to change up our entire diet from one phase of our cycle to the next. And so my whole goal with the work that I've been doing is that I want you all to just be eating consistently. And that might look different for different people. And so when it comes to what you should be eating in the premenstrual period, one of my big rules is that you have to figure out a way to get your blood sugar under control during that time. Because in the second half of your cycle, we are definitely more prone to blood sugar swings, blood sugar imbalances. So meaning like blood sugar goes up and then it crashes and goes up again and crashes. And the reason for that is because of progesterone. Progesterone actually has a blood sugar lowering effect. And what can happen is if we eat too much sugar or we eat too many foods that don't agree with our metabolism, what will happen is our blood sugar will go up too high, and then progesterone will bring it down really, really low. And we'll have PMS type hanger issues where it's very similar, right? Hanger and PMS symptoms, or at least the emotional ones, are very similar. So I would say that one of the best ways to do this is to set yourself up with breakfast every morning. And a friend of mine, quote unquote, invented it's what we fondly call a superhuman breakfast years ago. And that's what I eat most of the time, especially in the second half of my cycle. And usually that's eggs, maybe sausage or bacon or something like that. Lots of leafy greens or some other kind of vegetable. Cruciferous veggies are a win-win. Maybe even some broccoli sprouts on top of that. Those are cruciferous vegetables as well. They have a ton of compounds in them that are going to support your liver's ability to detox estrogen, and also avocado and maybe some sauerkraut or something like that, and some sweet potatoes or some kind of starchy vegetable. And so that's going to keep your blood sugar super stable throughout the day, or at least it's going to set you up for stable blood sugar throughout the day, because it is complex carbohydrates in the form of sweet potatoes or something like that, and then veggies, and then protein and fat with avocado. So that, to me, is something that you should really be aiming for in that second half of your cycle. During your period, I don't know, a lot of people have no appetite, whereas others are starving. So it really just depends. I really want everyone to start to trust their intuition about what it is they actually want, rather than looking outside of themselves to figure out what it is that they should be eating. I feel like we can all do that. And so, yeah, in one of the final chapters in my book, I do lay out what is a good idea to be eating based on what your hormones are doing in the different times of your cycle. So maybe that will be helpful. Okay, Heidi, amen to masking problems with birth control. It's just masking symptoms. That's a fact. Okay, so Lauren, what place do digestive enzymes have with endo, and what are your recommendations? I think digestive enzymes can be helpful, but not really on their own. If you need digestive enzymes, to me, that's indicative of something else going on with your gut. And it's a bigger issue. And if there are gut related issues happening, which tends to be the case with endometriosis, then I would recommend, I usually recommend an elimination diet. And that's, something that I've done with clients for years, and something that I have a whole chapter about. So I would consider that, like consider an elimination diet. I would also consider working with someone if that's something that you need to do. Like I said, digestive enzymes can definitely be helpful, but I found that they're usually a bit of a Band-Aid, because it's indicative, if you need them or if you feel like you need them, then it's indicative of deeper gut related issues. And I think that testing for gut health is necessary if you do have chronic gut health related problems, and especially if you have endometriosis. Okay, let's see. 100% we need knowledge. I first learned about you on the Great Girlfriends podcast. Oh, thanks. That's so great. I was actually supposed to record with them today again, but they had a power outage. So I will be doing that next week. So thank you. I'm so glad that you said that. All right. So Hannah, you said, I started seed cycling in May in an attempt to get my period back, and my period has been returning for the last several months. That's great. But I'm wondering if seed cycling is something to be doing forever, or how I would stop, or would I stop? I don't think it's forever by any means. I think that if you've done it and you're getting your period back consistently, maybe if you get a period for 3 to 4 months and you're seed cycling, then you can stop after that and see how you do. But remember that seed cycling, to me, I consider it to be an adjunct to changes in what you're eating and your stress management. Because if you don't have a period, again, there's a disconnect between what's happening in your brain and how it's communicating with your ovaries. So yeah, I don't think that you need to do that forever by any means. All right. So Kayla, you said, what tests do we take in order to find out about our gut health? Can you name the best one, and who should interpret those tests? My gyno solution is to go on birth control, and I'm 100% against it. And I'm looking to figure out how to help myself. I have constant constipation and feel gassy or full a lot. Okay. Yes. So I would say, the first thing is, you might want to consider an elimination diet, because that is pretty much what is going to be recommended to you by anyone like me or a functional medicine doctor or anyone who you would see who's going to take a deeper dive into your gut health. So that's the first thing. The gut health testing that I would recommend, I would recommend it based on working with someone. So that's, that to me is, it's important that you do that, because you can't really do any gut health testing and then interpret it yourself. So that's, that's the thing. If you want to send us an email, I can make recommendations of people who you could work with on your own, or work with, who are not necessarily functional medicine doctors, but are coaches or nutritional therapists who have additional training and who can do testing and help you figure out what's going on. But I would also say too that they will likely recommend an elimination diet as a start. Okay, let's see here. Heidi, what'd you say here? This is a question I emailed. Okay, I have estrogen dominance and I am post-birth control, 4 years clean. Good for you. I so appreciate your suggestion of the Daisy fertility tracker, and I believe it's turned me on to the knowledge that I ovulate late in my cycle. What does this mean, and how should I begin to nurture it to happen sooner? I seed cycle, take calcium D-glucarate, or reduce sugar. You have made a lot of other changes. I also discovered a bad allergy to DIM. Yeah, that's something that it's good that you found that out. Have you heard of that? And then mixed with even 1 glass of alcohol, I'd have a fever and terrible body aches. Okay, that's really good to know. DIM is not for everyone. And I often say that. I feel like we need to figure out why we're taking DIM in the first place before we just go and take it, because DIM supports phase 1 of liver detoxification. And it's the same compound that you would find in all those cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower and cabbage and kale and broccoli sprouts. And so, like I said, it supports phase 1 of liver detox. But if you don't have a problem with phase 1 of liver detoxification, and in fact you have phase 2 liver detoxification issues, or maybe phase 3, you have problems there with your gut, then taking DIM is going to exacerbate the problem. So I think it's important for us to keep that in mind before supplementing with DIM. And as for what you said about the allergy, I don't think I've heard of that before necessarily. I know people who have had adverse reactions with DIM. And again, not everything is for everyone. So I guess I'm curious about the estrogen dominance, Heidi. Have you always, how do you know you have that? Did you do testing? I'm curious, how you determined that you do have that. Let's see. If you're ovulating late in your cycle, here's the deal. So when we're ovulating late in our cycles, meaning that I like to see ovulation somewhere between days 12 and 21 of our cycles. So if you're ovulating later than day 21, then it could be a couple of things. It could be that maybe there's a lot of stress in your life. Maybe you're just overwhelmed and you may not even realize it. You may feel fine and your body is like, no, I don't feel fine. So it could be that. It could be the health of your follicles, your ovaries. So are there nutrient deficiencies happening? Is there something going on with your gut health? So I know you probably just responded here. Oh, you didn't yet. Okay, that's all right. Here's something that I think that we could all, that I think it's good for all of us to know when it comes to gut dysbiosis, any kind of gut pathology, and its possible impact on our ovarian function. I learned this from Dr. Grace Liu, and she owns the Gut Institute. She's so brilliant. Oh my goodness. And she was talking about this study last year. I think she was talking about it. And she was saying that basically there was a study that found that these little toxins, they're called lipopolysaccharides, or LPS for short. So lipopolysaccharide, or these toxins, are known as these little neurotoxins, or endotoxins, sorry. They are released from the pathogenic bacteria when those bacteria die, right? So they're released from the cell wall of those bacteria in your gut. And the problem for so many of us is that we have gut health issues. A lot of us have leaky gut. So that LPS, or those lipopolysaccharides, are passing through our leaky gut linings, and they're traveling through our bloodstream, and they're attacking different parts of our body. So they're like a key component of inflammatory responses in our body. And interestingly, what this study that Dr. Liu found, and I found really fascinating and included in my book because I felt like it was one of these things we really needed to know to show the connection between what's going on with our guts and our hormones, is that the LPS can actually attack your follicle. So they can have a negative impact on it. And what that means is that your follicle, where your egg comes out of, that actually produces progesterone in the second half of your cycle, can be impacted by these lipopolysaccharide endotoxins. And it can cause your follicle not to work the way it's supposed to, meaning that you do not produce enough progesterone or as much progesterone as you should. And she actually posited that this could be part of the reason why we're in such a progesterone deficiency epidemic. Fascinating. So the point here is that a lot of this comes back to our gut. We have to start with the basics by eliminating foods that are triggers. So these foods include things like sugar, soy, corn, gluten, or any kind of wheat, wheat products, dairy in many cases. And I think there's a sixth one. I can't remember what it is, but anyway, it's all contained in the book. The point is that if we can remove those for 28 days and then reintegrate those foods into our diet in a strategic way, which I outlined in Fix Your Period, then you will start to see, I mean, first of all, if you take all of these things out of your diet, you're going to see massive change. And I recognize that this week or next week might not be the time to do that. However, once you start to do that, all that bacteria imbalance in your gut will start to shift. Things will definitely start to change. And so I've seen remarkable results when someone does an elimination diet successfully. So just keep that in mind for, the root cause of what might be happening with your own hormones. Let's see here. I think maybe you might have responded. Let's see. What did you say, Heidi? The estrogen dominance is relatively new for me. I see a naturopath who did a saliva test, right? Progesterone is low. I have acne with my period and ovulation. I had problems with spotting before and after my period for a few years. Okay. I had many tests and zero fibroids or physical problems. Alrighty. So maybe DIM, like we were saying, is not for you. Maybe you need SGS to support phase 2. Maybe you need to support your gut health. I would also say too that saliva is not the most accurate way of testing hormones. The dried urine test, the Dutch test, is definitely more accurate. I would also say that serum or blood testing might even be more accurate than saliva. They all have their strengths and their weaknesses, but I would consider that too. And also you want to make sure you're testing your progesterone 5 to 7 days after you've ovulated. So you really need to be tracking your cycle and have a generally good idea of when you've ovulated in order to get an accurate progesterone test reading. So just keep that in mind as well. Okay, so Nora, probably going to stay on for like another 10 or 15 minutes, just so I can get all of you guys' questions. So Nora, you said, do you have any tips for helping to regulate your cycle when nothing else has worked? I currently have the Nexplanon implant and I am taking progesterone daily, but my period is still near constant and painful. I'm fairly certain I have endo in addition to my PCOS. I've been dealing with this since I was 10 and I'm 38 now. Oh my goodness. Okay, first of all, Nora, I have a little bit of bad news. The Nexplanon is not going to regulate your cycle. The Nexplanon is basically just like the pill and any other form of hormonal birth control minus the IUD, the hormonal IUD. It is basically going to stop ovulation. And when you stop ovulation, you will likely bleed constantly. The Nexplanon is a progestin-only form of birth control. And that progestin-only form of birth control is basically telling your body you do not need to ovulate. And so when you don't ovulate, you don't produce your own hormones. But the high doses of progestin in that Nexplanon in particular will cause you to bleed. It basically thins your, just so you know, our progesterone thins out our uterine lining. Estrogen builds it up, and then progesterone goes in and sort of smooths it all out and then thins it out. And that's why it doesn't get too thick. It's sort of a stopgap for estrogen. So progestin is stronger and it's a higher dose. And so it thins your uterine lining so much that you just bleed constantly. It is a well-known established fact that people on progestin-only forms of birth control bleed a lot and bleed constantly. So that is likely what is happening here with the Nexplanon. I don't know what all you have tried, but I will say that when it comes to, and this is for everyone, and this is something that I've learned over the last 15 years of doing this work and figuring things out for myself the hard way, that you have to start from the basics. You have to have a foundation. We can seed cycle, we can do all the things. We can vaginal steam, all of it. However, if the foundation is broken or there's cracks in it, there's going to be no way for you to really see big change and see substantial change that is long lasting. So we have to start with what we're eating every single day. We have to figure out what's happening with our response to stress. There are multiple reasons why your period might be why you might be experiencing what you're experiencing. I know you said you have endo, you have PCOS as well. Endometriosis and PCOS are two conditions that respond remarkably well to dietary and lifestyle changes. So I highly recommend trying that approach. And I mean, I can't tell you to come off of your hormonal birth control. Only you can make that decision. But I want you to make it from a place of empowerment and understanding of how your body works. And if you're turning off ovulation, that is not going to help you in the long term. And I know that you're 38 and you're probably really tired of dealing with all of this. But if you want to start to see improvements, the place to start is with what I've outlined, whether it's in the book, whether it's in my program. Even if you don't work with me, finding someone who is more holistic in their approach and is going to help you, move through the steps that I've outlined in my work, then that's really what's going to move the needle on your health. Okay, Micah, you said, is it Micah or Mika? Sorry, I'm not sure. Fairly regular periods, terrible hormonal migraine, premenstrual spotting, unexplained infertility, although had one ectopic a year ago, 35 years old. I try to eat well. I weigh 96 pounds. Okay. Mika, I don't know how tall you are. I'm not sure, what else is going on with your health. What I have found is that, let's see. First of all, I think the question is, are you ovulating? And that to me would be the biggest question here. And that would be what I would ask you if I were to do a consultation with you. That would be where we would start. I would have you track your cycle so that I could see what's going on, what's going on with your basal body temperatures, if your temperature is actually rising in your cycle so that I know you're ovulating, what's happening with your cervical fluid. I would want to know, I would want to do hormone testing and see what's going on with all of your hormones. I would want to see what's going on with your cortisol, whether your cortisol is completely all over the place and possibly impacting your fertility, what's going on with your thyroid. 96 pounds, again, I don't know your history at all, so you tell me, but 96 pounds seems a little low. And what I have witnessed in my own work is that in order for us to have hormones that are working for us and that are balanced, you may need to put on some more weight, or you may need to be eating more calories in a day. Typically, I like to see women eating somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 calories a day, depending on their unique circumstances. So I think it just depends. But yeah, like there could be a lot of different things going on. And it's, again, a matter of addressing this from a root cause perspective. So I don't know if you have any other thoughts. Let's see, you said, okay, I took letrozole last month for fertility reasons, had no migraines. You keep thinking of things that you should have added. No worries, that's totally fine. This is definitely complicated, right? It's not something that I can address specifically on here. I have opened my calendar to do some consultations with people. So if this is something that you want to talk through more in more depth, we can do that. I can do a consultation with you and we can try and figure out, what the next steps might be for you. Because it's interesting that you took letrozole and you had no migraines. It's likely maybe that you, I don't know why the letrozole, I'm not sure. Like maybe I assume it was because you, possibly maybe you're going to go through IVF. I don't know. You tell me. But yeah, if you want to explore it more, definitely send an email to support@NicoleJardim.com and we can talk. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Remedios, said, why do some women get 2 periods in a month, then have a normal period the next month? Well, when you get 2 periods a month, it's not really a period per se. Well, it could be, but it's doubtful. So when you get a period is always preceded by ovulation. So everyone should keep that in mind. If you get a period, it is likely that you ovulated about 10 to 14 days prior to getting that period. If you did not ovulate, all that period is a withdrawal bleed, it's a hormonal bleed, something along those lines. If you're bleeding more than twice a month, if you're bleeding twice a month, usually to me, that's a sign of, you got your real period and then you maybe ovulated or you didn't ovulate, it depends. And you're in a low progesterone state and you start to bleed again. That's what I see a lot. And for some of us, we might just spot. For others, it might be what feels like a full flow. And then you get a period again. And just the cycle continues. So this is, all of this, like I've been saying from, the beginning, is a sign that something's up, obviously with your sex hormones. But remember, everything is interconnected. So your brain is hormonal headquarters. It's command central for all of your endocrine system. But your brain is also attached to your nervous system. And it is talking not only to your ovaries, but it's talking to your thyroid and to your adrenal glands. And so what's happening with all of those other endocrine glands at the same time that your ovaries are supposed to be doing their job too? All of the hormones, like your thyroid, for instance, and I feel like a lot of what you guys have asked about could be related to your thyroids as well. We're in a bit of an epidemic when it comes to low thyroid function or just thyroid disease in general. And when our thyroids aren't working properly, what can happen is it can impact ovulation. Low thyroid function can 100% affect our ability to ovulate consistently. Low thyroid function is associated with estrogen dominance, with low progesterone. So they're all connected. They're all talking to each other. It's a matter of working through the steps of figuring out what it is that's going on, whether that's through testing or just starting with changing your diet and then addressing your blood sugar imbalances and, and like doing an elimination diet and working with your gut health and focusing on your liver detoxification. All of these steps are going to help address whatever issue you're dealing with. So that hopefully is a little bit helpful. Monica, let's see what you said here. What is your thought on how to take DIM? I'm estrogen dominant. I have a few fibroids. I'm going to be 50 in June. Periods are so much better since the DIM and on natural progesterone cream. My cycles are not regular. They even skip a month. I do Dutch testing and doing better. How do you recommend to take the DIM? Is it 100 milligrams? Do I take it along with my cycle or get off of it? I feel all over the map since I can never predict my period. It's never consistent. You can just, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I really can't recommend how to take DIM specifically for you. I actually have a blog post if you want to just take a look at that. And I recommend based on, what the general recommendations are for DIM and for SGS. So if you just Google Nicole Jardim, DIM and SGS, you'll find my recommendations there. But just keep in mind you're 50 and you're pretty much, at the end of perimenopause, you're going into menopause. Your period is going to be all over the place. This is not exactly a surprise for, based on your age and what you're describing. I think that whoever prescribed, whoever did the Dutch testing or who you did the Dutch testing with, you really want to be working with them to get advice on, how to be taking DIM or any of the other supplements that you might be taking, the progesterone cream as well. I'm assuming that that's under control. You're working with someone to do the progesterone cream or how you're taking it. I would recommend talking to whoever you're working with about the DIM recommendation, because DIM usually is taken on a daily basis. So hopefully you have someone. Okay, so Sarah, let's see. Thank you for answering my question. I was the first question, so I'm wondering, should I take ALC again and try to manage stress for a couple more cycles, or just manage stress and wait for my next cycle? You might want to try the ALC again and see how you do. But I also think too, if you're working with someone, I would certainly consult with them and see how that goes. And yes, we all need to be managing stress, ladies. This is a thing. I think that we live in such an unprecedented time. Forget the present. I mean, the present's just crazy, but we live in such a time where we have never been under this amount of stress before. Never. I mean, it's unbelievable. And it's coming in all, from all different directions. When you think about women 100 years ago, don't get me wrong, I know that their lives were no like walk in the park, especially compared to the conveniences and the luxuries that we have now. However, there was no 24-hour news cycle. There was no internet. There was no electromagnetic fields. There was no 5G. there were no additives in food. I mean, there was no crap in our food system at all. Their water was a lot more pure. So from that perspective, things were very, very different for them. And I mean, a lot of people didn't even have electricity. There was no radio, there was no TV, there was none of it. And as a result, you know, what we have seen, and our female bodies, I feel like, are the canary in the coal mine. I talk about this a lot in my work and in this book because it's an alarm system for us. It is telling us, our bodies, our periods are telling us something is seriously wrong. All of you are sharing about all of these symptoms that you're experiencing as they relate to your menstrual cycle. But remember, these are symptoms. These are symptoms of deeper imbalances happening. And we can't just look at that symptom and figure out a way to treat that symptom or spot treat that symptom, just like we can't spot treat a hormone, because it's all connected. Every single thing that's happening in your body is because of something else happening in your body. And all of these period symptoms, they didn't exist 100 years ago. I mean, not to the extent that they do now. And when we think about the unbelievable rise in all of what you've described, we have to really pay attention to that. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but there are multiple problems that are contributing in our society that are contributing to the symptoms that we're experiencing. I don't feel like our bodies were meant to live in a time where we are under such profound stress that, you know, we can barely even take a breath. I mean, some of us don't even breathe. And, you know, we really need to figure out what works for us. And so many of you said at the beginning of this call that you felt as though this was an amazing break for you, even though it's a pandemic. It's an absolute worldwide crisis. The US has just been named the country that has more corona cases than any other country in the world. Like, this is no joke. And yet so many of you are saying, wow, I really needed this break. Like, we needed a pandemic to slow down. This is crazy. So I think that we're all being called to figure out a better way to live our lives, a better way, a better way to show up for ourselves. And if this is what it took, well, this is what it took. And so I really think that, you know, we have to figure out like what it is that's going to work for us. And we can look outside of ourselves and we can, you know, get solutions, whether it's, you know, working with someone like me or reading a book like mine or whatever. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to decide what is right and wrong for you. And so with all of this, you know, it's, our bodies are the canary in the coal mine. Our bodies are information. Our period is information. It is telling you that there are hormonal imbalances and there are causes for those hormonal imbalances. And it's pretty much everything that I have just laid out there, whether it's something that's in our food or food additives, xenoestrogens. I mean, there's so much plastic in our environment. So there are, you know, this is really multifaceted, and this takes time. This took me years to figure out, to get a lot of this under control, to figure out what water filter to use, to figure out that I need to eliminate all kinds of plastic from my life. And although I'm not a purist, I still have some plastic in my life, but to, you know, how to, like, what to eat that works for me, how to figure out what's going on with my gut health, all of it. And so I think it's a multi-step process, and we have to just take it literally one forkful at a time. Sorry. That was quite a speech. Okay. Let me see if I can get a few more questions. Okay. My question is, I'm 44 for a few years now. I spot before my period and then have a heavy period first day, last 3 to 4 days with a day or two of spotting or brown blood to end. Feels like the whole thing is 3 to 5 spotting days, 3 to 4 days of period, and then a day or two of light brown on some. Okay. I mean, again, this is relatively common in perimenopause, so don't freak out. But I will say, like, if you have the basics down, like your diet, your stress, your blood sugar balance, all of those are going to play into improving the symptoms that you're experiencing. And so this is for Stacy. I would say, let's see. you've changed. Okay. You're saying now you've changed your diet. You eat more vegetables, less sugar. You take maca in your smoothies and seed cycle. You used to get a migraine day before first day, also had bad PMS, but that has stopped with above changes. Okay, great. So just keep in mind, right? These things take time. And if you are already in perimenopause, you said you're 44, that this, there might be only so much you can do. And the reason I'm saying that is because you're now on the tail end of your menstrual life cycle. And so there are going to be some abnormalities. It's not going to be a period or a cycle like what you had consistently in your 30s. So I think that we have to taper our expectations about what our periods can look like. Also pay attention to, or ask your mom what her perimenopause was like. When did her period disappear? What were her symptoms like? When did she fully go into menopause? My friend Jessica Drummond, some of you might know who she is. She has been a mentor and a friend for a long time. I did the women's health coach certification training with her. And she was telling me that last year she had a lot of stress, a lot of travel, that she lost her period and she was freaking out because she's 45, I think. And she said, I asked my mom said, oh yeah, my period pretty much ended around 45 as well. And Jessica was like, oh hell no. Like I really want my period for a longer period of time. So what she ended up doing was a lot of acupuncture. She really beefed up her diet and, she did some hormone testing to figure out what was going on. And she really fine-tuned her sleep and got right back into meditation twice a day. And after 3 months, she got her period back. So I think that we have to really consider our own personal circumstances, how long you had period-related issues prior. You said you've gotten rid of your migraine and your PMS symptoms, which by the way is huge. I feel like that's a massive accomplishment. And maybe it requires some more fine tuning. Maybe you need some acupuncture. Maybe you need something else. I mean, like, a lot of my clients have had great results with vaginal steaming. They've had great results with castor oil packs, especially for the brown blood at the beginning and the end. I have all of those. Those are options. You can find that information on my site. There are also bonus handouts on, if you purchase my book in the pre-sale period, you can get all of those e-guides on how to do all of those things. CBD might be helpful too, as well, for the symptoms that you're experiencing. I would say maca's tricky. Maca for me makes me spot. I took it as part of a supplement that somebody sent to me, a company sent to me a couple of months ago, and it caused me to spot for days. I have not spotted before my period in years, and I couldn't believe it because it was such a minute amount. So keep that in mind. Maca is not for everyone. So that might be something to think about. All right, let's see. Sometimes you get a headache, but not every month. Yeah. I mean, again, keep in mind the improvements, right? You've made really great improvements, and this just might take more time. It really does take some time. And not all changes are for everyone. So maybe you need to experiment some more as well. Okay, let's see. All right. Can you guys not hear me? Okay, you can hear me. Okay, good. All right. I'm going to have to jump off soon because it's 7:15 here. And I have to cook dinner, and there's a lot more questions. I might need to do another Q&A. All right. So you were saying Acacia, I think that's how you pronounce your name. I hope so. I wanted to know what you would suggest. I have been bleeding lightly for 14 days. It's been going from light spotting to a light period. I can't see my gyno for 2 months due to the virus, and I don't know what to do. I refuse to go back on birth control. Also, is there a way we could get a copy of the video? This video, I assume you're talking about? Yes, I will have a recording. I'll send that out tomorrow. Okay. So Acacia, like I was saying to everyone else, I know I sound like a broken record, but you guys, this is so important to really grasp. And it's that if your foundation is crumbling, no amount of supplements or seed cycling is going to fix the problems that you're experiencing. So Acacia, if you are dealing with the symptoms that you have right now, the first question I would have for you is, are you ovulating? If you are not ovulating, it could very well be the reason why you're bleeding like this. If you're bleeding lightly for 14 days, to me, that indicates that ovulation is either not happening, or if it is happening, you're not having what we call an efficient ovulation or an effective ovulation, meaning that that follicle where your egg came out of is producing a sufficient amount of progesterone for you to not bleed. Progesterone holds your uterine lining in place. If your progesterone is not where it's supposed to be, then you will bleed and you'll spot constantly. So keep that in mind. So I want you to track your cycle. I have the first chapter in my book, actually, which is part of the bonuses, by the way. You get the first chapter, you get the print version of the chapter, and you get the audio version of the chapter. And I outline how to track your cycle, because everyone on the call, this is what we all need to do in order to not be dependent on our doctors, which a lot of us can't be right now. We have to figure out our own cycles, and tracking your cycle, literally figuring out when you're ovulating through taking your basal body temperature and paying attention to your cervical fluid patterns, which I have outlined in the book. That is going, and you have the first chapter, so it's there, it's available to you now. That is going to be a game changer, because when you know if you're ovulating, that takes the guessing out of so much of this. So if I were to know that you were ovulating, then to me, what I would say is, okay, if you're ovulating, you're clearly not producing enough progesterone because you're bleeding for weeks at a time. So then we would want to work on the foundation, right? Like, what are you eating? How can we improve that? Are you eating foods that are triggering inflammation in your body? That inflammation is either impacting your ovaries' ability to ovulate consistently, or they're just throwing all of your sex hormones or that inflammation is throwing your sex hormones off. So that's where I want you to start. Like, I want you to track your cycle and figure out whether you're ovulating or not. That's the first step. Okay, Monica, can anyone tell me how to get the private off my name? Oh yeah, I don't know why you're there with the private thing. If you, at the bottom, there's like a thing for everyone that you can click on. Okay, let's see. So yes, Monica, definitely send us an email, support@NicoleJardim.com, and we will help with that. All right, so Mika, you're welcome, no problem. Sarah, okay, you're welcome. Yes, replay will be available. I will send that out to everyone tomorrow. Okay, sleep regulation. Yes, sleep regulation, sleeping at the same time each night and waking up at the same time can help regulate one's period. Yes. Okay, let's talk about sleep real quick. And then I know it's late for a lot of you, so I'm gonna jump off in about 10 minutes or so. Hopefully I can get everyone else. So anyways, sleep regulation. So the first thing for us to understand when it comes to our menstrual cycle is that our circadian rhythm, or our sleep cycle, is another cycle. Our bodies love cycles. They like to be regulated, which is why when our sleep is off, our menstrual cycle will likely be affected. And I've talked about this extensively. I've even spoken about this on my blog as well, with regard to melatonin. So melatonin is the nighttime hormone. Cortisol is the daytime hormone. And when cortisol is not busy dealing with all of our stress in our lives, cortisol actually regulates our sleep cycle, our sleep-wake cycle, or our circadian rhythm. So cortisol will rise first thing in the morning, and there is something called a cortisol awakening response, or CAR, as they refer to it, or CAR. And that is the immediate spike up of cortisol as soon as, or within 30 minutes of you waking up. And what happens is, if we are in a state of just perpetual stress and burnout, which many of us are, what will happen is that cortisol might not rise the way it's supposed to. So you might not want to get out of bed. You might be hitting the snooze button. You might be feeling super groggy. You might just feel kind of crappy. And you just are going to need like 3 or 4 cups of coffee, which is going to artificially raise your cortisol, by the way, because coffee is a stimulant. It's going to stimulate your adrenals to basically like pump out cortisol so that you can wake the hell up in the morning. And as a result, you've now sort of thrown off your whole cycle, right? Because what you're doing is you're stressing your adrenals even more, that your adrenals that aren't working the way they're supposed to. And as a result, this is how you've set up your day. And so then you go into the rest of your day, and what happens is if you artificially stimulate those adrenals, you're producing the cortisol to get up and stay up in the morning, you will have a crash, because caffeine also raises your blood sugar. And it raises your blood sugar so that you can, have some energy, or it raises your blood sugar and that will give you energy. It's not necessarily why, but so that's what happens. And then we end up with this totally dysregulated circadian rhythm because cortisol is dysregulated. So you have this low cortisol in the morning, and then what happens is, for many of us, we get a second wind, and cortisol suddenly rises up at night and we can't fall asleep. or we can't fall asleep, or we can't stay asleep. And as a result, we don't have great sleep that night. We wake up the next morning, the cortisol awakening response doesn't respond the way we want it to, and then the cycle continues. And this just gets progressively worse if we don't do anything about it. So I cannot stress enough, no pun intended, that we get decent sleep, because melatonin, so that's the nighttime hormone, it is impacted by cortisol, right? So if there's too much cortisol, there will not be enough melatonin. All of these hormones kind of work in a seesaw type of way, right? Progesterone and estrogen are the same way too, right? If the cup is full of estrogen, there's not a lot of space for the progesterone. And it's the same with cortisol and melatonin. And so with melatonin, melatonin also affects our circadian, or not only our circadian rhythm and our sleep, but it affects our menstrual cycle. It's fascinating. And so women who work shift cycles, meaning they work at night, or shift work, they work at night. So if you're a nurse or you're working the graveyard shift for whatever reason, and you do that often, they tend to have more irregular menstrual cycles than women who do not. So again, like that to me indicates that there is a big connection between what's happening with your cortisol and melatonin and your sex hormones and your period. So if you have dysregulated melatonin, you have to start to reverse engineer your sleep routine. And what I mean when I say that is you have to think of, get clear on a bedtime and turn off the electronics prior to that. Make sure that you're wearing blue blocking glasses if you feel like you do have a problem with falling asleep, with staying asleep, with waking up in the middle of the night, feeling like you're groggy in the morning, like even if you got lots of sleep, you still don't feel rested. All of those to me are signs that something's up with your melatonin production and your circadian rhythm. So you want to be wearing those blue blocking glasses. You can find them all over the place on Amazon, and really anywhere. I think, yeah. What's the name of the company? I can't remember the name of the company right now. But anyway, you'll find them online. And you want to think about the light in your house at night. It's really important to not have all the lights blazing, guys. Do not do that to yourself, because that is just telling your body that it's daytime and it's time to party, and cortisol is time. It's time for cortisol to be high. We do not want that at night. So think about what electronics you can turn off. Think about the lights that you can dim or turn off in your house. Make sure that the nighttime mode is on your phone, on your computer. If you do have to work at night, take the electronics out of your bedroom. Make sure that you are sleeping in a dark room, because even if there is light, it totally messes with your melatonin production. I mean, even right now, I feel like I've got a lot of light on my face. So I'm going to have to turn all of this stuff off soon. And, I always recommend, if you can do this by 9 p.m., it's great. You're scoring big. And then from there, think about your nighttime routine or your bedtime routine. How can you wind it down? Because we can't go from just the craziness of dinner and kids and, all TV watching and whatever else, coming home from work late or going for a nighttime workout or whatever, and then just think that you're going to go to bed. That does not happen. We all know that. We know that we're all up at like midnight doing something, cleaning the kitchen or whatever. So think about how to, like I said, reverse engineer, right? So if you need like an hour of downtime, whatever that looks like, that's where you set your bedtime. So if you want to go to bed at 11, then you need like an hour. So start doing things at 10 or even at 9:30 so that you can be in bed by a certain time and ready to sleep. So it requires some diligence and some practice. This is not something that you can do right away, but even if you take little steps, I promise you it'll make a big difference. Magnesium at night is going to help calm you down. It's going to help support sleep. And so I recommend magnesium glycinate is one of my favorites, but Natural Calm, that magnesium citrate, it can cause loose stools for some people, but if you have constipation, then it's great. But magnesium citrate at night, it's a powder. You just drink it and then, start your wind down. Maybe you use an essential oil diffuser with lavender or some other form of essential oil or type of essential oil that you like that helps calm you down. Maybe you're journaling at the end of the night, or maybe you're doing a guided meditation or yoga nidra. Yoga nidra meditation, by the way, it's ace. It's so amazing. you know, like whatever, turning off the news, like just do not do this to yourself. Like all of this stuff is contributing, right? And we need to decide what it is that we are open to and what it is that we have no time for. And so I really do think that if you can start to get your sleep under control, especially right now, you're going to start to feel better. Like I was saying, all of this contributes. There are multiple pieces to this puzzle, and we have to just make the best effort that we can with the tools and the resources that we have right now. And I will say the other thing that we tend to forget is that to get your cortisol awakening response up in the morning, you've got to be looking at sunshine. So open your windows. I'm amazed by how many people just keep their blinds shut all the time. Like I'm shocked by it. I'm constantly like, let's get all the windows open and add as much light in here as possible. But I encourage you, as soon as you wake up, open your window, look outside, look into sunlight. Don't stare directly at the sun, but get sunlight in your eyes, because that is going to set your circadian rhythm for the day as well. Okay, that was a very long explanation about sleep. Let's see here. Okay, so sleep, let's see. Okay, Zingy, I probably can't answer that question right now because I feel like I'm gonna have to jump off here soon. Oh, thanks, Jamie. There's the book, fixyourperiod.com. Exactly. All right, let's see. My last 2 cycles were normal and they were the first that I got on my own. Awesome. I've been using the Glow app to track my cycle. It's been helping. I just can't seem to understand basal body temperature. I've been eating some more greens and losing weight. That's so great too. Thank you. I'll have to give the BBT a try again and see if I can master it. I've laid it completely out. I've laid it out completely in the book. And I also have a workbook that's going to accompany the book as well. And so I explain it in there in more detail. So definitely get that. And it's in the first chapter. So you already have access to it. All you have to do is pre-order the book on fixyourperiod.com and you will be able to understand it. I promise you, it's not that hard. The bottom line with basal body temperature is that all you really need to do is pay attention to the temperatures in the first half of your cycle. So between like the first day of your period and probably about like 12 to 18 days after that first day of your period. So day 18 of your cycle, look at those temperatures. And if they are somewhere between the numbers 97 degrees Fahrenheit and 97.7 degrees Fahrenheit, then that's a good thing. If they are below that, it could mean something's going on with your thyroid potentially, but it's not necessarily the case. And if they're above that, it could mean potentially that you're in an estrogen dominant state. So what I would say is that, no, wait, hold on a second. Let me say that again. Yes, if they are, yes. So 97 to 97.7 degrees. And so if you want to make sure that your temperature falls somewhere between there in that first half of your cycle. And then in the second half of your cycle, after you ovulate, you want to be over that 97.7 degrees. So usually I like to see temperatures in the 98 to 98.6 degree range, somewhere around there. So that will tell me that you've ovulated. If your temperature goes up by 0.2 of a degree, so 0.2 degrees, over the previous low temperatures after ovulation, or if, when you think you've ovulated, that is a sign that you've ovulated. And so if those temperatures stay high, so they stay in the 98 ranges or the 98s range, that is almost a guarantee that you've ovulated. So that's where I would put my focus right now. Okay, what is the foggy thinking really about? LOL. What could I do for it? I mean, it could be related to so many things. It's, there's gut health, what's going on with your other hormones. It could be related to your thyroid. There are multiple factors. And that's why, like I was saying before, and I'm going to say it again, we have to look at all the contributing factors and just start with the basics, starting with food. What's happening with your blood sugar again? Like, is your blood sugar all over the place? And if it is, that could definitely be triggering the foggy thinking. I mean, if your blood sugar crashes every single day on a regular basis, it will likely cause you to feel completely foggy and, brain foggy and moody and angry and emotional. So think about what could be going on there. Let's see, for blue light blocking glasses, I've been using some from the company Blue Blocks, and they have been working quite well for me. Awesome. That's great, Sarah. Great. I'm so happy to hear that. This is my first time trying it, and I only tied the bath at the end. What do you think of baths during one cycle helping in this kind of menstrual flow I'm describing? I'm not sure exactly what you were saying. Let's see here. Oh yeah, you asked more questions up here. I started talking about it got clogged. Baths are totally fine, just so you know. You can take a bath. It's not a big deal. You should definitely take baths if that's what you want to do. Baths during your cycle are fine. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Let's see. The brown, you might want to try castor oil packs. You might want to try vaginal steaming. Those are bonus guides when you buy the book in pre-sale, so consider that. I laid out exactly how to do them, all the resources, tons of information on how to do those, because that will really help with the blood stagnation that's possibly causing the brown blood. Brown blood is just slow moving blood. It's just blood that's oxidized. So all that means is that it's just slower moving at the beginning of your cycle and at the end of your cycle. It's not flowing the same way it would when you actually have your period. So the other thing though is that there are structural issues sometimes too, right? Your uterus can be flipped backwards, or it can be flexed forwards, too far forward. And as a result, your uterus muscles will have to work harder to get that blood out. And that's where you might feel a lot of pain with your period. But also you might see that blood. That's because it's just been stagnant blood that's pooling or sitting there and hasn't been able to exit the body in a timely manner. So it could be a structural thing too. And that's where you would need a pelvic physical therapist. You would need a myo-abdominal massage therapist or a visceral manipulation therapist. And you can Google all of those. Okay, I think I got them all. Magnesium at night's really helped. Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to hear that, Hannah. It's the small things that help sometimes in a big way. Okay, glad that was helpful, Zingy. Okay, I got everyone. I know there were a lot of questions that people sent in, but unfortunately, I wasn't able to get to most of those, so that's all right. I got to all of you guys, and I hope this was really helpful. Good, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I would love to hear any feedback from you. What else, you want to see? Like I said, the book, it's why I wrote this. It's so that it can help all of you who I can't work with personally, or who, you can't get to your doctor right now. There is so much information in here. There are literally over 600 studies that I cited. It's 400 pages long. There is a lot of information, and you can do that whole protocol on your own. And now in pre-sale, you get my 14-day cleanse, and you also get the first chapter of the book. So, and tons of other resources as well. Like I said, the workbook and the e-guides on CBD, vaginal steaming, seed cycling, a whole bunch of things. So yes, hopefully that's great. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you felt like this was amazing. I am so glad you think my work is important. I hope so. I think it is too. Thank you so much. The relation to gut health was super revealing. Yes. If you've had gut problems and you never paid attention to them because they seem normal, totally. This was my biggest issue as a teenager. I had horrible gut health issues, and they got progressively worse when I was on the pill. And that really was what precipitated all of my hormonal problems. And if you have gut dysbiosis, if you have leaky gut, which, are the two main problems that you would have with your gut, they are going to cause all kinds of problems. They can cause those IBS-like symptoms, whether you have diarrhea, you have constipation. They can cause a lot of the gut health issues or bowel movement issues related to your period, because period poops are a thing, but when they get out of control, it's not a good thing. And all of these symptoms that we sort of normalize because we've experienced them for so long, they're just not normal. And I think that gut health issues, especially for women, are things that we just sort of ignore. But yes, if you are vacillating between constipation and diarrhea, or you have one or the other on a constant basis, then for sure, it's really important for you to be looking at, figuring out what could be going on there. I do recommend working with someone if you are experiencing symptoms that are really disruptive to your life. But if you say have just a little bit of constipation every now and again, or, like you have abdominal pain or whatever, things like that don't feel that serious, then maybe starting with an elimination diet will help to resolve that. However, I do recommend, working with a functional medicine doctor who can do the right testing for you in order to get you to the next stage. And in the book, I lay out as well different types of testing that I think people should be getting depending on the symptoms that they're experiencing, whether it's gut-related symptoms, whether it's hormonal issues, whether you have PCOS or endometriosis or amenorrhea. I've laid out all the different types of testing that I think one should get, or at least ask their doctor for, so that you can start to figure out what's going on with your body. So hopefully that that helps explain things. Thank you again, everyone. Oh, this is so great. It's so great to read everything that you're all writing. I feel so validated. Thank you for saying all these nice things. And I will see you guys hopefully soon again. I will likely do another Q&A because this was clearly a very needed conversation. And I will see you in your inboxes. And then also I'm on Instagram a lot too. I've been doing lives, like I said, so come join me on one of those as well. All right, ladies, thank you again so much for showing up. Thank you. Thank you. Stay healthy as well. And I will talk to you all soon. All right, bye for now. Have a great evening or the rest of the day, wherever you are. Talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.